listening to The Coolering, a podcast made for manufacturing marketers. Here are Carmen Perry and Jeff White.
Welcome to The Coolering, a podcast for manufacturing marketers brought to you by Cooler Partners. My name is Jeff White, and joining me today is Carmen Perry. Carmen, how you doing, sir?
Man, I'm optimistic.
You're
That's how I'm
optimistic.
doing. Yeah, it's
Just generally, or
well,
like about
you
the
know,
show,
it's
life?
May.
It is.
May is a very optimistic kind of month.
Yeah,
You know?
it's pretty easy to be happy when it's this sunny.
Nothing.
You know.
Yeah, summer's around the corner.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm generally
Let's book some
optimistic.
vacation. Yeah.
And I'm optimistic about just of today's show as well, because we talk a lot about kind of we'll beat heads between SaaS marketing, software marketing, and manufacturing. So now we're going to turn it right on its ear and bring somebody in that generally is marketing software, but to manufacturers. I just think there's a fun number of layers to this particular marketing challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So joining us today is John Buglino. John is the Director of Marketing at Optessa. Welcome to the Coolering, John.
Hey guys, thanks very much for having me today. It's a pleasure.
John, it's great. And I tried to tee Jeff up for an easy segue to say the word Optessa with optimistic, and he completely botched it.
I caught it.
Man,
It's all good.
I'm just toiling here and just trying
The
to get
genius, it's real. Yeah.
But it's great to have you on the show, John. Thank you for joining the Coolering today. Look, why don't you give our listeners a bit of background about you and tell us about Optessa.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, appreciate the time and for having me on the show today. So, John Buglino, Director of Marketing with Optessa. I've been with the company for a little over 3 years now, and we are an advanced planning and scheduling software targeting global manufacturers that have complex problems and are experiencing issues in their operations. And yeah, we just look to have conversations to see where the pain points lie, and really just get in front of the manufacturers that have these, like I said, complex problems that really require the right software to really get them the solutions they need to drive the real business results.
And when we say complex problems, we're talking about optimizing supply.
Everything related to supply side, S&OP, right?
Yeah.
So supply side operations planning. So making sure you match your demand with your supply, making sure you have the right materials where they need to be, when they need to be there, the staff and the machines, everything running in an optimal fashion. And, things over the last couple of years, I know you guys are familiar with it, even pre-pandemic, these issues existed. The pandemic just exasperated these items and brought it even more to the forefront. And now we're kind of in this, I'll call it a recovery, but we still have problems with the execution, right? So now everyone's just drowning in data and orders and systems and tools and things that are happening, but really lacking that execution side of it. And that's where we really come in. So it's really, now that you understand where your demands are or what your demands are, now it's time to actually execute and get things out the door to then meet your customer needs and also your business needs.
And I think like the thing that's interesting about the marketing and sales challenge that an organization like Optessa and many others have is that, your solution is out there. It's helping organizations like this move and digitally transform in the way that, they need to in order to progress and understand what they have to do. But they don't necessarily know that yours is the solution, or that that this is a solution, and what to look for, and that makes it difficult.
Well, I guess that's probably because we're solving a lot of different problems for different people, right? I mean, I just as John was mentioning, there was a kind of a lot of ands, like we solved this and this and this and that, and it's every and makes it really hard to market, I think.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest piece of it. So the problems, how it's being solved today, are very, I'll call them one note. So it's helping you do one and not the other, or one without considering anything else. So, not the term is really like, or the phrase is like a greedy heuristic. So it'll help you do one thing really well and sacrifice absolutely everything else. So for example, if you have to meet your customer delivery dates, and that's what you say. That's all I want to do today is make sure that all my deliveries go out on time, but you fail to realize that you don't have the material, the staff, the machines. It's going to take you 18 hours to do that. It's just not possible. So what we really look to do is understand that, but also you tell us you want to meet your delivery dates. We will make sure we look at your entire solution space to give you that optimal view. This way you understand the trade-offs and you're not just running through a wall and realizing now, okay, we did it, but it took 18 hours and 6 hours or 10 hours of overtime. And, the machines are now all broken down, things like that. And, we ran out of all of our inventory. So we are the one where it's the end and the end and the end, because we look at everything. We don't leave anything out. So we look at your entire operation. So if you have 3 lines, we'll make sure we utilize all 3 lines to their full capacity, or we understand what that capacity or those capacities are. And that's where when we look at current solutions only handle one note or one thing, or are only helping with one item that's right in front of that operations leader or planner or scheduler, whomever is in charge of the operation. We look at everything, whereas right now they're looking at what they can really understand themselves, right?
Interesting, because that the thing that's an advantage to you is also probably a disadvantage in terms of even getting the opportunity to help somebody in the first place. Because of course, that problem that's right in front of that operations lead is the thing that they're going to search for a solution on, not all of the other pieces, one assumes.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that's why when we're having conversations with our customers or those that are looking for our solution, we bring it back and say, you need to provide us with three things just to get started. And these serve as our baseline. So we need to understand your orders. So we have to understand your customer orders and what's in demand of you. We have to understand your materials and your constraints related to your lines and your inventories and your things like that. And we also have to understand your business rules. We have to understand what you're hoping to obtain or do as a result of implementing the software. And if you're able to articulate those 3 things, we can hit the ground running. We don't want to complicate it from the start and say, oh, I don't have my labor digitized, or I don't have my shift patterns, or I don't have my inventory numbers for the next 6 months. I only have it for 3 months. Remove all that. Let us get those 3 things first, and then we'll build upon it and grow with you as we progress and mature, and we get this process done with you guys.
So I think we have a good understanding of what Optessa does as best we can. I'm kind of curious. Let's kind of unpack a little bit about how you get the opportunity to do it. How do you actually get in front of because you work on a lot of different verticals, my understanding, right. And that can often present a fairly large awareness challenge, especially for an organization the size of Optessa. I guess let's peel the onion a bit on the marketing here. How are you navigating that discovery phase and kind of getting in front of your prospects early on?
Yeah, so there's a couple really key channels for us. The first one is our customers. So our customers are our foundation of how we were able to grow over the last 20 plus years. So once we implemented with our first customer, then they walked us into our next customer, and then they told them about another auto OEM that needed us. And so we grew through word of mouth and the referral kind of network there. Then once, I don't want to say we exhausted it, but other things started happening as things progressed with the different customers, is we started looking at who else was working with that customer and kind of worked on that partner relationship, because now you have individuals that are with these customers on a daily basis. They're with these customers having conversations about what they want to do on a longer or larger scale. And then we're the common denominator to see where things fit. The other area is, of course, inbound, right? So we have to be able to attract our prospects and also keep our customers satisfied through what we're putting out from a content perspective, but through the lens of value, right? So we have a platform and we can do everything that I mentioned earlier about constraints and business rules and optimization. That's all well and good, but really people want to know what's in it for them. And they really want to know what pain or what problem you're going to solve for them. So that's where, from an inbound perspective, our website perspective, we lead with customer stories and use cases. This way, someone on the other end is researching a specific problem. We have that solution and they want to have a conversation. So while we handle inventory and business rules and constraints and capacities and all those things, the person on the other end is really only looking for one solution to one problem, and we have to make sure we cast a very wide net and then funnel them in. So it's multi-pronged approach, but again, it's leveraging our existing customers, working our partner relationships within those customers, and then also developing the stories to attract future customers based on what we're doing with the aforementioned two parties.
I have to think too. I mean, the partner channel is a real stroke of brilliance, and I think what really makes that work so well. And there are, there's lots of great SaaS examples of great software companies choosing to build a very strong partner network because they know that if they don't have people who can help implement that solution, it will fail. So, you can have the best piece of software in the world, but if people don't understand it and it's not put in properly and it's not aligned with the goals and expectations of that organization, it doesn't matter how good the software is, nobody's going to use it. And then
Right.
it's a failure. So I think that's brilliant. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about kind of how you develop and grow that partner network and how they help Optessa scale.
Yeah, so that's key. So when we are working with the new customer, it's a long sales cycle. And it's also, I would say, a lengthy implementation process with a lot of moving pieces, right? So best case scenario, every customer wants to be implemented in 90 days. Everyone wants to be implemented tomorrow. But we know that there's limitations with staff and resources and time and things like that. But also on both sides of it is there's already individuals and partners working with that customer that has done these integrations, to your point, Jeff, to where now we just have to make sure that the partner can connect to and write to and use our software and inject it into the systems currently with that customer. So it kind of alleviates a bunch of the implementation and integration process. And again, the other piece of it is the customers are really risk adverse. So aligning with a partner and having them walk you in as a trusted partner through them gives that sense of, stability and that calm of like, don't worry, here's a solution that's going to be able to help you with these three things. We will help implement, we will take things and make sure everything works. No problem at all. And that's really what we've done, because at the end of the day, the in-house teams at these customers and these manufacturers are stretched thin. So they're leveraging partners with these integrations. And then when we're partnering with them, it's an easier kind of fit. From a revenue standpoint or a profit standpoint or whatever we want to talk about, we take care of the SaaS side of items, and then the implementation integration services is all with the partner. So at the end of the day, everyone wins from the solution provider standpoint, but ultimately the customer wins as well, because they now have a new solution that is now integrated through their trusted channels and partners, and now we just move forward.
I think that trust element is a really critical piece. And Jeff mentioned, the notion of partner networks being fairly common. Of course, in marketing agency land, everybody will think of HubSpot, but and there the polarity is almost reversed. You have a bunch of agencies that are trying to live off of the trust that a big brand like HubSpot brings to market. And interestingly, your partnering approach is kind of operating in the reverse, where you're looking to leverage the trust that those partners have inside those client relationships. Fascinating. I agree with Jeff. I think it's a stroke of genius in your three-pronged strategy for sure.
Yeah, and I think another piece of it is, I think I mentioned earlier, the partners are having the conversations with those customers and are really in tune with their needs as a business. And so not only are we selling to the partner, we also have to sell to the customer once everything's, taken care of. But the partner is the one that's going to reach out to the solutions providers and say, I'm working with a customer. I won't tell you their name just yet, but here's the things that we think you guys can handle, or here's the project scope. Here's where we think you can fit. Or you can get the partner to say, I'm working with a customer. here's the 10 things they've identified as opportunities over the next 6 to 12 months. Let us know what you want to, part of the business you want to vie for and what solutions you can provide. And we'll work together to understand that. And then we'll work together on a solution jointly with the customer and bring it to the customer's attention.
I mean, I'm always, I don't know about you, but as a marketer, I always get a little nervous when things seem to be going pretty well. You know, you look at you've got three sources of kind of biz dev here. We're leveraging our customers. We've got a strong partner network and inbound lead flow. And that works well until it doesn't, I guess. And I'm curious, kind of, where are you kind of looking to take some bets? Where are you looking around the corner to say, this is where we might be able to go next?
Yeah, so I think our biggest challenge and things that we're trying to do is diversifying, right? So the biggest thing that we've heard, not only from our partner network, is that we're very strong in automotive or discrete manufacturing, and then we need increase our use cases and case studies when it comes to process industry. So, penetrating things like food and beverage or pharmaceutical and things like that. And we do have those stories, but I think it's a disadvantage optically when you look or research on there. So the bets that we're kind of taking is really looking to the software and to the platform to say, here's what we've identified as gaps in these other verticals where we want to be stronger. And now here's how we need to address those items. And I can say with confidence that we've addressed those and we were able to land a new logo in the last 3 months based on those efforts, right? So we always have to adapt. We have to change. We have to do the R&D. We have to listen to our customers. We have to listen to the industry about what's needed. And we have to educate ourselves, right? Because we can't walk into a pharmaceutical company or opportunity with a partner for pharmaceutical showcasing things we're doing for discrete. It's a complete mismatch and you lose them from the start. So you have to be able to understand the nuances between the different verticals and the different customers, and then adapt your software to showcase those items, and then make sure you can deliver when called upon with implementation.
Yeah, I mean, man, obviously the use cases would be very diverse between those various categories. And how I guess I'm curious, how different have you found the actual selling environments to be? Are the buying committees generally larger on the automotive side and the process side, or kind of any patterns that you've noticed?
They're all definitely complicated. I think there's other certain industries are a little more risk adverse than others. So when you're thinking about aerospace and defense, highly risk adverse. They want to really work with trusted partners, advisors, internal teams, and really want to do a lot in-house. From a process industry standpoint, they're the higher, high volumes and high volatility related to their products and what they have on there, and their delivery dates are a little bit more near term as opposed to, say, like automotive or those aerospace types of items. So working and understanding those nuances and those differences is really our advantage when we're talking to these customers. When it comes to the business rules, the process industry is a little bit more in tune with their inventory and their levels and changing things out. So changeovers, that's a universal pain point, but the process industry, their changeovers and their changes happen more frequently. And you're also dealing with a little more sensitive type of materials. So different ingredient mixes, allergens, and different things like that, liquids and chemicals. So it's a little bit more detailed as opposed to, say, on the automotive side, like doors and buttons and things like that. So it's a little more, I would say, a little more descriptive on what's really needed there. And again, like I said, if you walk into a process manufacturer showcasing discrete types of items, it's, well, how are you going to rotate my tanks and clean out my lines? I don't see the symmetries here. I don't see the alignment. I don't quite understand. But when we showcase and have our demo and have our conversation, we showcase how we handle the changes with lines and how we handle those types of business rules and requirements. So those are the types of items where we have to go on to certain assumptions, and then they validate those assumptions, and we say, others in the industry seem to have a lot of issues with changing over tanks, right? Is that something that you guys are dealing with? No. Are you guys dealing with volatility with your ingredient mixes? Or are you dealing with things like expiration dates? Are you dealing with issues with color matching or things like that? So we have to kind of understand those different use cases and kind of lay them out there, and then have the prospect and customer really respond to those types of items, and just have that conversation.
I think one of the things that I always find so interesting about software, and selling software into other organizations, is that oftentimes, especially in the SaaS world, like the audience for a lot of SaaS products is limitless. Whereas what you're talking about is, we've got these automotive OEMs, and there's only like what 15 of them in the world or whatever, and and then you have the process companies, and you're looking to get into pharma and other types of things like that. I'm reminded of a story I heard years ago about a wedding photographer that pitched on trying to shoot the latest Audi, car. You can't even get consideration there because you just don't understand the industry. You don't understand. You've never done that kind of thing. There isn't a direct transferal of skills. So, kind of building up those case stories about each industry as part of, like, where do you introduce those in the sale? Like, is that coming in first? Is it a qualifier, or is the partner qualifying you and then you use the case stories to help close? Like, what's the order of operations?
Yeah, it's a combination. If we're working with a partner, we make sure that the partner is well aware of where we start and end, right? So we have finite start and end. So we are on the supply side. We take, so if a partner comes to us and asks for us to be part of the demand side, so understanding things coming in, that's not where we fit. We take demand as an input. So we make sure they understand once you have all your materials, things like that. So we articulate where we want to be and play to our strengths, right? And we're very clear. That's the other thing, is we're very transparent in saying, here's where we can help and here's where we cannot help. So we also don't overpromise and underdeliver, because nobody wins when you do those types of things. When we're working with inbound or individuals reaching out, we try to disqualify early or earlier on, because if they're looking for something that does not fit our needs or does not fit what we do, it doesn't make any sense to overpromise and then underdeliver and string them along. It's a lengthy enough cycle already to then start saying, yeah, we'll take care of it. Yeah, we can do that. No problem. We look to qualify, to your point, Jeff, earlier on, like, explain to me what your problems are and where do you think our software can help. And they have to get talking. So it's open-ended, so we get inbounds, and I'm sure others, listening and other marketers experience it. I want to see your software. Okay. I can show you my software. No problem. You can go on YouTube and see my software. Like, why do you want to see the software? So that's not a conversation. That's an email back. Give me the one reason that you reached out to me and articulate it back to me. Let us understand. And if you don't want to email, let's jump on a quick 5-minute phone call and let me understand what you're looking to do, or the project's there. So again, we look to disqualify earlier on to make sure we don't waste effort, and we also don't waste the effort of the prospect or those looking, and also the partner. Right? Because if the partner comes to us and says, here's the 5 things they need in the next 6 months, and we can't handle any of it, we have to walk away from it. And too many in the business want to just be part of it, that they say, yeah, we want to be part of the project. But if it's outside of what you do, there's no value. There's no value to the customer, the partner, because now everyone looks foolish when you now have to deliver on that task that you can't. So, and that really, to the earlier point, Carmen, like, you break that trust instantly, because now you're making everyone look bad, and you should have just said no from the start. This way everyone could have moved on. So I think that's the whole piece of it, is be very clear about what your expectations are of the prospect and what the prospect expectations are of you. This way everyone wins in the end.
I'm curious how you, there must be some sort of inclination to want to stay engaged with that prospect. I appreciate the notion of disqualifying early, there's not a need for us right now. But if you know that that's an organization that you could do business with, they maybe just don't have the pain point that you solve right now. Have you found any kind of particularly successful way of growing that awareness pre problem identification, so to speak, or how have you nurtured some of those relationships along until the point that they actually do need you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And when we disqualify, say for example, they're looking for an ERP or they're looking for something that's outside of what we're able to control or able to provide, we still learn about the organization, about their operation, about their pain points, about why they're even, looking to implement the other software or platforms and things like that. So we always learn from each of the engagements, right? So that's the whole piece of it is if it's not right now, it's okay, you're implementing this piece of software. Here's where I think we're going to come in and fit. Tell me a little bit more about your operation. Tell me a little bit more about your structure, your lines, your team involved. Tell me a little bit more about how you utilize your labor. Are there any other things? So you kind of plant that seed a little early and kind of say, all right, well, I know the next 6 months you're going to be heads down with this implementation. I'm going to reach out in 6 months and see what's happening in your operation and understand if things have changed from what you just told me and where you are at that point, and see if it makes sense to kind of re-engage at that point. So to your point, Carmen, like we always learn from the conversations and then apply it forward. So if we're working or speaking to someone outside of our normal verticals, we look to get as much information as we can to learn, to understand, and then we take that back to our team and say, here's what we heard from this beverage manufacturer, and here's the problems they were having, and it's all around cleaning and sterilization, and how could we show this in the software, and how could we develop messaging around that type of thing, or here's what we heard from aerospace, and here's what they're low volume but they're high mix, but their mix is all around their labor, and we have to understand skilled trade. So we learn from each engagement and look back to apply it to the product. And then we also look at it from a messaging standpoint of how can we utilize what we heard to kind of bring a pain forward using different types of messaging.
I mean, digital transformation is hard enough.
Yeah.
That choosing
Yeah.
to go into something that you don't yet understand, and you know, um, end up with a customer who can't use it, or it doesn't accomplish their goals, or even if it's one of your competitors that does the same. I mean, it ends up painting the whole um, supply chain automation, digital transformation business with the same brush. So I think it's important even for your competitors to be listening to your messaging here, like, don't screw it for the rest of us,
Yeah.
because you really do need to have a good handle on that to make sure that it's a good experience for everyone all around.
Yeah. And I think digital transformation, I smiled as soon as you said it, because it's one of those topics where everyone's involved in, or everyone is doing some sort of digital transformation, and everyone's saying, no, this is right, no, that's right. Everyone's right. Digital transformation, it goes a layer further into maturity of the digital transformation, right? Going from pen and paper or whiteboard or notes on pieces of paper to something digital. I don't care what it is, just putting it into Notepad, or just putting it on your computer or getting it someplace in an email. That's digital transformation. Like, that's a step for that company. Then there's others, on the other end, where they currently have an ERP or they have connected systems and softwares, and they're looking to either rip out and replace or complement with new. It's all part of it. And that's that wide range of, you have someone with pen and paper that's going to put it in an email and then put it on a shared drive. And then you have others that are in it where they're trying to balance 9 different connected systems, and one connector broke. We have to figure out what to do. So digital transformation is a great topic to talk about, especially when a customer or prospect identifies that, because then we instantly learn, where are you in that maturity? Are you coming from spreadsheets? Now you're looking to finally use a platform. So it's like, from a marketing perspective, a CRM could be on paper, a CRM could be in a spreadsheet, a CRM could be in an actual CRM provider like you mentioned earlier, Carmen, like HubSpot, you're all right. It's just a matter of where are you? Like, what are you looking to do, and what are the goals, right? What are you tracking? What are the goals related to that? So that's a great conversation to have with a prospect or even a customer of, help me understand where you are in your digital transformation journey. And then we'll work and have that conversation around that as our baseline.
I think you've also done a great job of illustrating why the words digital transformation are a particularly useful positioning. Right? It means a lot of very different things to a lot of very different people.
Right.
John, I'm wondering, I'm always curious, people get along in their marketing career and they figured a few things out along the way. I'm always curious what type of advice they would give to their younger self starting out. What advice would you give to the younger John?
Oh, the younger me, the piece of advice I would just scream and write down and just mail letters to would be network. Your network is tremendous, and networking is tremendous. There's so many doors that open. There's so many things that happen if you have conversations with people and learn from other people and connect with others, because the world is not as big a place as we think it is. And I think we mentioned pre-show, like, there's people that move and change roles while you're talking to them about implementing software. 6 months from now is a long time. And you never know where that person's going to be or what that person's going to be doing in the next 6 months or who they're connected to. And the other bonus piece of advice is, when you're talking with someone and they just joined your network and they say this phrase or they give you this line of, hey, look at my connections and look at my network and let me know if I can introduce you to anybody. I take people up on that offer and they're shocked. And it's like, that's what we're doing here. I can reciprocate. I have a large network. I've been in marketing for now my 17th year. I will happily introduce you to individuals, I call them, that are on my bench that can help you and elevate you. So when I ask you, hey, can you introduce me to Stacy? Yeah, I want to talk to Stacy. Here's why, and here's what we're going to cover, and here's what we're not going to cover. So first thing, network like crazy. And also take people up on the opportunity to leverage people in their network, because again, it's just like we do with the partners. If there's someone that you know, that means that you have that relationship, and now we have a relationship. Help me understand and help me walk into them and understand how I can help, and take advantage of that relationship to your advantage. So that's what I would tell my younger self.
Thank you for sharing that, John. I appreciate it. It's been great having you on the show.
No, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate the opportunity. Good conversation.
Thanks for joining us, John.
Thanks for listening to The Cooler Ring with Carmen Perry and Jeff White. Don't miss a single manufacturing marketing insight. Subscribe now at KulaPartners.com/The Cooler Ring. That's KULAPartners.com/The Cooler Ring.